This is NDTV, and you're watching NDTV 24/7.
Good evening, you're watching NDTV with me, Rishika Barua. This is the show where we take your questions on the coronavirus. We're joined by a panel of expert doctors who will answer all of your questions related to the coronavirus. Joining us, Dr. Sunil Jain. He's the Director and Head Endocrinology of the Total Diabetes and Hormone Institute from Indore. We have Dr. Saqib Khan. He's the Head of Department and Director of Endocrinology. Dr. Dilip Kumar is also with us. He's the Senior International Cardiologist and Device Specialist joining us from Kolkata. Big thank you to all you doctors for sparing the time to be with us this evening. I want to take the liberty to ask you, a question that has dominated the news today, which is, related to the plasma therapy. Now, the plasma therapy is being tried on a patient in Delhi. So, what is the plasma therapy? We're going to put out some of, the facts that are well known. It's known to create antibodies, which can then be transferred. I'm not the doctor, so I won't bother to explain, but let me pose this question on plasma therapy. Can it be the way forward in curing patients who have the coronavirus? Is this the big medical breakthrough that we've all been hoping and praying for? Let me begin perhaps by asking you, Dr. Jain, if you have any thoughts on the plasma therapy. What's known? What does it entail?
See, plasma therapy is a concept of immunoglobulin which is specific to coronavirus.
Okay.
Now, when a patient develops an infection with coronavirus, what is going to happen? Our body will produce antibodies and finally it will clear. Now, once the patient who is cleared from the disease, we call it cured, and he is now fine.
Right.
Now, if we look at their blood is containing these antibodies. And now if we collect this plasma, now these antibodies can be utilized in another patient who is having a severe disease. So this is an experimental therapy. We know few states in India, they have considered it, they are trying for it, but we will have to see how it works, but there is a possibility looking to the mechanism.
All right. So this does present itself, as an opportunity. So the blood plasmas, from what I understand, doctor, are transferred from a recovered patient because you generate antibodies to fight the infection, and that blood plasma can be transferred into a sick patient to cure them. So that's essentially what the technology is all about. But of course, can it be the big breakthrough that we've been waiting for, something that is still being experimented? I will come up with a few more questions on the plasma therapy a little later as well. But our first caller, Amin Bhatt, is joining us from Gurugram. Go ahead.
Hello.
Yes, go ahead.
I, along with my wife, reached New Delhi from USA on 18th of March. So it is already been a month here. For this whole period, we have followed the guidelines and self-quarantined ourselves inside our home in Gurgaon.
Okay.
We are actually from Kashmir, madam, and are thinking about going there after lockdown ends.
All right. So what's your question?
We are worried about we will be taken to quarantine facility. Since that seems to be practiced there. Since my wife is a type 2 diabetic patient, dependent on insulin, I am worried that the quarantine facilities they will not be able to ensure as much social distancing as we can do if they let us go home. My question, madam, why is a case as ours eligible for a quarantine?
So if you could just ask your question and keep it short, please, so we have time for more callers.
My question, madam, is why is a case as ours eligible for quarantine, as such practice follows in other states as well? And lastly, is this as per government guidelines? Can the doctors please make it clear?
All right. I think your question is on quarantine. I'm afraid, Mr. Bhatt, we don't have a very clear line with you there, but I think your question is on quarantine. Dr. Kumar, would you like to take that on? A lot of patients are anxious about this quarantine, the quarantine period. A lot of people anxious about being in a hospital in quarantine, especially if you've had a travel history. Could you clarify on some of those things?
Yeah, and he came, I think, 1 month back, and he has already, been quarantined for more than 1 month time, and
yes.
Now he can be like a normal person. And basically, when we go with the, virology, person who is having his acquired infection, he will be asymptomatic for 7 days, and then he will get symptoms for next 7 to 12 days, 1 to 2 weeks, and then there will be a convalescent period. So it entirely takes around 4 to 6 weeks time, and this gentleman has come, I think, 4 weeks back, and maybe he can behaving as a normal person now.
All right. So you needn't worry if you have completed more than 3 weeks of a quarantine period, then you are essentially safe. However, I think you also questioned about whether you travel back to another state and will you be quarantined again? Well, once traveling is enabled in the country, we'll have more clarity, on that. Tejas, our next caller, is joining us from Mumbai. Go ahead.
Hi guys. So my question is, the Maharashtra government released its COVID report today, 6 hours back, and the report says that around 80% of the cases are asymptomatic.
Yes.
So in such a case, all the self-assessment tests that are available on all the government apps are saying that, you should look for symptoms. But since there are no symptoms, almost 80% of the cases are
all right, that's a very interesting question. Dr. Khan, would you like to take that on? Asymptomatic cases seem to be, the big headache, not just for people, but also for the authorities. And, at a time when every advisory is asking you to quarantine yourself, to look for symptoms, how do you look for symptoms if you're asymptomatic?
Actually, approximately 20% of the patients are asymptomatic till whatever data we have received from across the globe. Rest of them, 60% of them may have mild symptoms only. So and it is also seen that patient may also spread the disease when he is still in incubating period. So when a patient has obtained an infection from a person who was having it, so it will have at least 2 days to 2 weeks for symptoms to develop, and even in 20% of the patients, symptom will not develop at all. And this is why this 2 weeks period of quarantine has been advocated, because if you have to develop those symptoms, you will develop in 2 week period. So if you have come in contact with a person who was COVID positive, or you have been in an area where COVID-19 was having a community spread, so you must confine yourself for 2 weeks in an area where other people should not.
Because the rise in asymptomatic cases, has been one of the biggest problems for the authorities as well, which is why the lockdown has been imposed in the manner that it has. Because you could be an asymptomatic carrier, you may not, be affected by the disease in a really bad way, but you could. You carry the potential to infect another person, for whom the disease could be even more problematic, especially someone with a predisposed condition. So that's, I think. Yes, doctor.
Actually, this is why the community spread is a very dreaded thing. When a community spread has happened, then you cannot know that if a patient who is not having symptom is harboring the disease or not.
Right.
Now, if you are obtaining an infection from those who are having a clear history or having a clear disease, it is easier to quarantine those patients. And when it goes into stage 3, it is quite difficult.
Right. Also, if I could ask Dr. Kumar once again, and if I could just come back, to the point on the plasma therapy, because we've talked a lot about treatments. We know that, there are some general broad-based antibiotics. There's been, talk of hydroxychloroquine that has been given, etc. But do you believe, doctor, and I'd like to hear from all the doctors really, that do you believe that the plasma therapy does actually present itself as one of the most promising things that we have inside something that is being talked about, being experimented in order to be able to cure the coronavirus?
Yeah. Let me tell you one thing. It's only around 3.5 months since this coronavirus has come up, and it is too premature to say that something is going to work. And see, we are cardiologists, and we still have not come to a conclusion that angioplasty works in stable angina or not.
Right.
So it takes a lot of RCTs, a lot of experience, but still, this this therapy is not something which has been tried for first time. For SARS-CoV-1, it has been tried. H1N1 influenza, it was tried. So 1 or 2 cases will not lead us and to a conclusion that it is going to work. And it is now at the moment is experimental therapy, and any patient on which we want to try it, we have to take permission from DCGI, and the patient should be having a severe disease. And there are some donor criteria as well. So it's,
But does
it's
this
too premature to be happy about this
but
therapy.
doctor, if I could just ask you a follow-up question, when you're saying that the blood is extracted from a person who has either recovered or a healthy person, as long as that person has sufficient antibodies, it also means that you need to have a lot of people volunteering to be able to come and give that blood for testing and then further, for that plasma transfusion.
Definitely, but there are some criteria. The patient should have he should have a severe disease in the past, and he has already spent 28 days after he became asymptomatic. Only these patients are qualified to give plasma.
Right.
So not all patient can be donors. There are some pregnant ladies are not they can't donate the plasma. So there are some criteria and guidelines laid down for donors as well.
Right. Also, Dr. Khan, if I could bring you in, on this as well, we are seeing that there has, been, the ICMR has in fact greenlit the possibility of there being a study to be conducted on the effectiveness of the plasma therapy. What in your opinion is the way forward?
It is actually not a new therapy. It has been used for approximately 100 years from now, and it has been used in various therapies. But as you go through this therapy, it actually is used for those patients who has got severe disease, and for them to use those protective antibodies which is
right.
Recovered from which has been obtained from a convalescent serum of a patient.
Right. Doctor,
it is
right.
Yes.
We'll come back to this, but our next caller, Priya, is on the phone line from Mumbai. Go ahead.
Hi, my question is particularly to the endocrinologist.
Right.
In times like this, what do people with PCOD or endocrine issues, what sort of food can we eat? Because, it's mostly carb-rich food with difficulty in getting fruits and vegetables, etc.
All right.
And this increased fear about obese people also catching the virus sooner. So how do you kind of try following a healthy diet in times like this when it's mostly dal and rice?
All right, so we have Dr. Jain and Dr. Khan who can answer that question. Dr. Jain, would you like to go first?
Yeah, so see, in patients with diabetes during this COVID pandemic, we understand that the many food items which you are recommended are not available, but simultaneously we can have many alternative strategies, because in diabetic diet our major objective is to cut down on the carb content, and in a Indian, particularly in a vegetarian diet, to increase the protein content. So you can consider other options of all pulses groups.
Right.
Those who are non-vegetarian can consider egg white, fish, etc.
Right.
So these are the items which can replace so as to cut down on the carbohydrate content. I would definitely recommend that the one staple food which is used in plenty, that is potato, which is a very high starch content, then sago, which will be very high starch content again. So these food items should be avoided, because we want only 50-60% calories coming from carbs.
Yes.
So the best alternative for these will be to increase the protein containing food items your diet, and that's how to adjust it.
All right, so you can increase the protein content via pulses, eggs, etc., even if you don't have access to fresh fruits and vegetables on a daily basis. Dr. Shaukat Kamal is dialing in from Patna. Go ahead with your question.
My question is that what is the difference between common this community transmission and the local transmission in view of this COVID-19 pandemic?
All right, Dr. Kumar, do you want to take that on? Local transmission versus community transmission, if you could explain the difference.
Yeah, so community transmission means if someone has no, appreciable history of contact with someone who is COVID positive and someone who has not traveled, and then there is an outbreak, and you can see as the person and you detect person is positive and he had no visible, appreciable contact, history of contact and travel. So this is community outbreak. And local is, someone is going to hospital and he knows that some, patients are there. So this is the local outbreak. And I tell you one thing, sort of simple, basics of epidemiology is epidemiological model is there are some susceptible guys, there are some infected people, and then there are some recovered, people. So when the epidemiology goes like this, the most important intervention is from susceptible to infected. There we have to intervene.
Right.
And there are a lot of factors work here. So it depends on the transmission. How rapidly the virus can transmit and spread. And second, what are the interventions available and how the people are behaving.
Right.
So comes to bottom line, we don't have any vaccine right now. We don't have any therapy right now. We have only one thing which is there in our hand is how we behave.
Yes.
And that's what
so
we are
prevention
doing,
essentially, I think the words prevention is better than cure, more relevant now, than ever before perhaps. Zohan from Pune, our next caller, go ahead.
Yeah, hi, good evening everyone. So I just want to understand, we are saying that this virus is through, the air droplets or the droplets, which is which comes up when we sneeze or when we cough, right? So I just want to understand how can asymptomatic person can get this because the asymptomatic person is neither sneezing nor coughing.
Let me take that to Dr. Khan. Dr. Khan, a lot of questions have been asked time and time again about, we know that it's a droplet transmission, but at the same time there's also been theories that the droplets could be suspended in the air, raising questions on whether it could be an airborne disease.
So till now it is mostly a droplet mechanism which is responsible for the spread, but simultaneously it is also fomite borne. So if a patient who is not even coughing or is actually asymptomatic as the question being asked, so he may have saliva and discharge, and he may have virus in those fluids, and it may be in his hand or in his day-to-day use surfaces, and we may come in contact with those surfaces, and then we can acquire this infection from those asymptomatic patients. So it is the main concern with the asymptomatic patients.
Right. And I think that's one of the reasons why masks have also been made compulsory, not just here in India, but in several countries. And there's actually been a correlation, and where countries have made masks mandatory, we've seen that the number of cases has actually declined. So that would, in a certain sense, substantiate the doctor's point. Manash from Agartala is calling us next. Go ahead.
Yeah. Hello, doctor. I have 2 questions.
Go ahead, ask your questions.
Yeah, I have 2 questions from the doctors. Hello, doctors. My first question is, usually viruses, they go for mutation and all in host body. So how does the COVID-19, whether any cases are there that the COVID-19 do mutation in host body? There's my first question.
So mutation is your first question. What's your second question?
Yeah, second question is that nowadays these antibody-based detection kits are available. Now, how far these antibody-based detection kits are? More.
All right. So I'm gonna just divide up those questions. Dr. Khan, if you could take on the first question.
Yes. So first question he was talking about.
So he's essentially been asking. He's asked about the antibodies, and he's also asked about the virus in particular and the mutation of the virus.
Actually, it has 30,000 nucleotide, and approximately it mutates approximately at every 15th day. So it is also a concern for us. Approximately 8 strains has already been reported, and we don't know that actually influenza virus is mutating every year, and we are getting different vaccines every year. So it is also possible that it will be keep mutating, and we will have to keep chasing this problem in this virus also. But it mutate more easily in its natural host, like a bat. In fruit bat, it mutates more easily as compared to in humans.
All right. Dr. Jain, would you like to take on the question about the antibodies?
Yeah. So see, now this is a viral disease, and how we can diagnose or detect this. So one way is to do a intact virus culture, which obviously we can't do. Second way is to do the mRNA of the virus to pick up that. And for that, this is the swab test which is going on, which is picking up that mRNA lying in the virus. And third thing, when a patient is infected, obviously his immune system will produce antibodies. First antibodies produced by 7 to 10 days will be IgM antibodies, and then IgG antibodies will be produced. So apart from swab test, another option can be for a large population, we just do their antibody test.
Right.
Now, if a person has antibody present in their body, that means they had infected in past with COVID.
All right.
If the antibody is IgM, then it's an active infection.
All
while
right.
if it is predominantly IgG only, that means this patient is recovered and cured for the infection. And that's how many asymptomatic people, that's what the question is being asked frequently, may be detected with this COVID-19 disease
All
in
right.
future.
Rajpal Singh, our next caller is on the phone line from Ludhiana. Go ahead.
Yeah, good evening, the panel. I have a question regarding hydrochloroquine. The World Health Organization press conference or a meeting suggested that hydrochloroquine given to normal people can prevent them getting COVID-19. So why isn't the government doing it on the basis of the polio drops, like they have putting
Right.
polio drops to every
All
house?
right, Mr. Singh,
Why can't-
I'll get Dr. Kumar to answer that question. But let me just issue a small clarification there. The World Health Organization experts have also said that there is no empirical data, and this has happened just a couple of hours ago. There's no empirical data to prove that hydroxychloroquine can effectively fight coronavirus. So I just wanted to clarify on the facts there. But of course, Dr. Kumar, you'd be able to better explain.
Yeah, definitely the HCQS, it comes in the name of HCQS, and this hydroxychloroquine, it has been talked about a lot in last 2-3 weeks. But still, I can say it's not a time to 100% put a stamp that this is going to work. And I would rather say and appeal to everyone that it should be limited to someone who is in contact and close contact, working in healthcare workers. They should take it because it is a potentially toxic drug as well.
Right.
If someone who has a cardiac disease and someone who is taking drugs, multiple drugs, which can increase the QT, this is what we say in our ECG. There is a QT interval, and it can cause malignant arrhythmias, and patient can die even. And there have been some case reports. Some of the patients, normal fellow with comorbidities, they have taken and they have died.
Right.
So
I think, Doctor, the bottom line, if I could just summarize it, is of course you can read. There's a lot of medical literature now that is out there, and of course everyone's very curious to know more about the drugs, about the disease. You can read all you will, but please don't self-medicate until and unless you're not prescribed a drug by a doctor. Please do not self-medicate. Don't read something off the internet and self-medicate. I think that's something that all the doctors nodded on, so you perhaps agree. But thank you so much, doctors, for joining us with your time. And a big thank you to the viewers who've dialed in as well. That's all we have time for on the show this evening. Thanks for watching.